Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. My name is Emily Russell. I'm a program coordinator at the Cook Children's Center for Community Health. I'm joined here today with Madeline Kim, who is a licensed professional counselor, also with the Center for Community Health. And tonight we're just going to walk you through a program that we offer to support families and organizations that we work with for better mental health. Children's Feelings are a work of art, as we'll explain more in detail. Helps kids to be able to identify, manage, and express themselves in healthy ways, like through art. So I'm just going to turn the time over to Madeline, and she's going to give a quick overview of Cook Children's in case you're not familiar.
Yeah, so we wanted to take a minute to introduce Cook Children's and the Center for Community Health. So Cook Children's has medical centers in Fort Worth and Prosper, providing care for families by top medical experts, cutting-edge technologies, and innovative treatments. So in 2011, Cook Children's created the Center for Children's Health, which provides an infrastructure to guide community health education programs, as well as resources to community partners and families. So we believe every child deserves a happy and healthy future. That is why at Cook Children's Center for Community Health, we are dedicated to preventing injury and illness and embracing wellness. Together with our community partners, we strive to make North Texas one of the healthiest communities to raise a child. Yeah, so every 3 years, the Cook Children's Center for Community Health conducts a community needs assessment. So in the latest assessment, an estimated of 269,000 children needed mental health treatment or counseling, which is higher than state and national rates. We know that children and families in our communities are in need of support for mental health to improve their overall well-being. This presentation today, we are going to give a little bit of education on mental health and walk you through an activity that you can do with your child to help them build positive mental health by learning to identify, manage, and express their emotions in healthy ways. So why mental health? So mental health in children includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being, and is equally as important as physical health to our overall wellness. It is important for children to have strong mental health so that they can reach developmental milestones, identify, and express emotions. So mentally healthy children have a positive quality of life and can function well at home and school and in their communities. And what is emotional health? So emotional health refers to your ability to understand, manage, and express your emotions effectively, contributing to overall wellness and resilience in facing life's challenges. As you can imagine, being more aware of your emotions is a skill that can help you feel better about things and cope better, be less self-critical, and decide quickly how to act and handle situations, and show empathy for others. So now that we have a good foundation of why mental health and emotions are important for our children, we'd like to introduce to you Children's Feelings are a work of art.
Great. So now we're going to talk about Children's Feelings or work of art. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave any questions in the chat and we'll try to address those as we go along. This is a lot of information, but you'll be able to have it all when you pick up a kit from the library. These toolkits, which we'll also explain later, are available at two of the locations in the two of the locations in Plano libraries, which are on the website and calendar that you'll be able to find more information for that. So to start out, I'm just going to take a quick second and ask you, how do you feel right now? So let's just take a quick moment to pause. You can close your eyes if you want. Take a couple of calm breaths and ask yourself, how do you feel right now? You can think of one-word answers that describe how you feel and notice the words that come to mind. Does one stand out, or are there a few? You might even have opposite feelings at the same time. For example, you might be excited, but you also might be a little nervous. That's completely normal. The part of the brain that's responsible for self-management isn't developed in young children. It continues to mature beyond our teen years. So that's a regular part of childhood and brain development to sort through our emotions. That's why we encourage parents to help their children to learn to put names to their emotions and know that there are small differences between them. So, for example, happy is a little bit different than excited, angry is a little bit different than frustrated, sad's a little bit different than disappointed. You might have caught those, you might have caught yourself distinguishing those feelings on your own in our previous activity. But it's important for your children to be able to do the same. So we encourage parents to guide their children to learn to manage emotions through healthy coping skills. Practicing these healthy coping skills can help your brain pathways develop so that children can manage their emotions more easily as time goes by. And I won't go like super deep into your brain and how it works, but your brain does create these pathways, and the more often you do something, the deeper your brain pathways are, and so it gets easier and easier for you to be able to recall those things. So the more you practice healthy coping skills, expressing your feelings, it only becomes easier as time goes by. And lastly, we hope that parents will help to create environments where their children can express these emotions without judgments and can learn to share feelings in appropriate ways. So throughout this presentation, we'll talk a lot about feelings and managing and coping, but we want to make sure that our children are understanding that we want them to express their feelings, and we want them to be able to communicate those to people around them, but there's always an appropriate way to do so in appropriate times. So we'll talk a little bit more about that too. That's just one of the messages that we share here with Children's Feelings Are a Work of Art, but I wanted to go through a little more kind of the basic messaging that we use throughout the Cook Children's system to talk about emotions. So that's here at the Center for Community Health, as well as our hospital locations, our doctors and our clinics. We all know that taking care of your mind is just as important as taking care of your body, and them together can make you healthy, and it goes towards your overall wellness. So in order to take care of our minds, it's important that we learn about our feelings. So we all feel every emotions, but some feelings may be hard because they are new or because we don't know what to do with them. So we call feelings comfortable or uncomfortable, and we don't talk about feelings being good or bad because everyone experiences emotions, and we want everyone to be able to feel them. But again, we want people to be able to name them and manage them appropriately. So just keep this in mind as your children are learning to put names to feelings, and hopefully that you'll encourage the good feelings as well as the bad feelings, those comfortable and uncomfortable feelings, because we all have them, right? And sometimes we need help expressing the uncomfortable feelings in the appropriate way. Coping skills are things that we do when we have those big uncomfortable feelings. You may be familiar with some common coping skills. We talk a lot about taking deep breaths or taking a time out. We encourage people to share your feelings with others, talk to a trusted adult. Things too, like cuddling a stuffed animal or playing with your pet, drinking a glass of water or eating a healthy meal. All of those things can help us kind of manage our different emotions. And the more that we use those healthy coping skills, we can learn to identify which coping skills work best for us and in which scenarios. So we like to encourage your children to use art as a positive coping skill. And art is a positive coping skill that can help express ourselves when it's hard to say them out loud. Okay, so we'll jump right into our activity. So children's feelings or work of art is an activity that we do in the community through our community partners. So that may be schools or nonprofits, after school programs and things like that. And we are bringing that to you through the library with this activity kit. So again, you can pick it up at a location, and it includes everything that you'll need to do this activity. The reason why it's connected to the library is because this activity is or uses a book called The Color Monster, and that is available to check out at the library. So that doesn't come in the kit, but we encourage you to check that out from the library so you can do that together. So in this kit, it does include an overview and an activity guide. That'll tell you step by step exactly what to do. We'll go through the lesson, but that is a scripted lesson. If you want it, you can really just read it all the way through, and we'll share common messaging or how you can talk about mental health and feelings in the way that Cook Children's recommends. And so you'll see that in the activity guide. Also inside that kit are monster feeling cards on popsicle sticks. And this they go along with the story. So you'll see these, they look like this in your bag, your activity kit. We also have coping skills cards. So this is a resource that the Center for Community Health has created, and it gives you 13 ideas of what to do when you're having big feelings. So you probably can't see that, but again, that's in your your activity kit. And then we give you some posters that you can do your art on directly. And that poster has some mental health resources on it, and it can direct you to our website for more information. Okay. So when we start this activity, you'll start by reading The Color Monster. So The Color Monster is a cute story about a monster, and he's having a hard day and he needs help sorting out his feelings. And so I won't go through the book, but you'll be able to, again, check that out when you can. But it talks about a color monster, and he woke up and he's confused and he doesn't really know why. So he asks his friends for help, and this little girl helps him so he's not mixed up anymore. And she goes through some typical emotions and explains to him like how you feel with those emotions. So you'll see here on the picture to the right, those are the feeling cards. It starts with the yellow monster. This yellow monster is happiness, and she explains happiness as being bright like the sun and twinkles like the star. And so whenever you read this story to your child, you can interact with your child and say like, what makes you happy? Or what do you think we can do to be happy today? The book goes in and says like, when you feel happy, you want to dance and play. And so it gives kind of ideas of, what you might do when you feel that kind of an emotion. The next feeling it goes into is the blue monster is sadness. So sadness is lonely and blue like a rainy day. It washes over you like the sea. And it goes along to say that it's okay to be sad, and it might make you feel uncomfortable and it might make you want to cry, but it's okay to cry. The next one is the red monster, and that's anger. They describe it as being burning red like a fire and hard to stomp out. And sometimes when you feel angry, like life can feel unfair. And sometimes you want to take out your anger on others, but it's okay, and you can learn to make your anger disappear. The next monster is the gray monster, and it's fear. They describe it as when you feel like hiding and running away, like a mouse in the night. And when you're afraid, you don't have the courage to do things, but you can find your way to feel better. The next emotion is the green one. It's calm. It's quiet like the trees, and the green leaves swaying in the wind. And when you're calm, you breathe slowly and peacefully. And you can rest when you feel peace. So then after all of that, again, you can go through with the story, and you can use some prompts and talk to your child about how they feel. Or when you say, oh, the red monster is angry, like, how do you feel when you're angry? Or what's a time that makes you feel angry? Or what do you do when life feels unfair? The book continues on, and it talks to the monster and asks how it feels after it's been able to learn these feelings and separate them from themselves. And then he ends up saying that because his friend was so helpful and helped him sort through his feelings, then he experienced a new emotion, which is the pink one, and that's love. So they talk about just how if someone helps you and is nice to you, then that makes you feel loved. So that's the first part of the lesson that really helps you to teach your child to identify feelings. So we know as we get older that there are some, there's so many emotions, but these are kind of what I would consider to be basic emotions. And from then on, you can go into other things about, again, I said excited is a little bit different than happy. Glad is a little bit different than happy. So depending on how old your child is and how they might already know the names to feelings or be able to distinguish them, you could build off of these 5 basic emotions or 6 basic emotions. Okay, so the activity goes on to encourage you to talk to your child about when they feel those emotions. So in the lesson or activity guide, it gives you some scenarios to help you talk through with your child about when they might feel those emotions. So that's when you use the feeling cards on the popsicle sticks. And for example, one says, today is your birthday. How do you feel on your birthday? And so you'll be able to talk that through with your child. We've done this activity so many times with different kids, and you would expect that that everyone would say happy. They feel really happy for their birthday. But it's not always that way. And sometimes kids are sad on their birthday, and we talk through that they might be disappointed or that they miss someone that won't be able to be there to share their birthday with them, or they feel angry because something happened to them that day and kind of ruined their birthday. And so you can talk through these different scenarios. There's another one that says you were playing with your friends and they left you out. You say you got hurt, your friend moved away. So you can use the scenarios that are suggested in our lesson, or if you know that your child is going through a specific experience, say one of their friends moved away, or even coming up with school starting, that's a lot of big feelings that kids are feeling. Going back to school, meeting new people, being in a different setting, leaving friends or family or a parent for the entire day. So you can also add in kind of your own scenarios to know, to try and see how your child is feeling about things that are going on in their life right now. So the lesson goes on to our next portion. So once children are able to identify their feelings and put names to their feelings, then what? Then what can we do with those feelings, and once we have a name to them? So the activity introduces coping skills. So we all have things that make us feel uncomfortable, and we can do a lot of different things to help us feel better when we do feel uncomfortable. So those are called coping skills. And we created a resource called the Coping Skills Cards, which you'll see here. These are some pictures, and also come along in your kit, which gives 13 suggestions for healthy things to do when your feelings become too big. It's important to note that all coping skills might not be appropriate at all times, or a child might not like some of them. For example, we have here, ask for help, but a lot of times there might not be someone around to ask for help. Or listen to music and dance, but obviously you can't always listen to music and dance at all times. Or read a book, you might not have access to a book, or it might not be the appropriate time for that. But so whenever you learn about the 13 coping skills, we suggest that you also talk to your children about appropriate coping skills at appropriate times. It might not always be helpful to listen to music or dance when you feel a certain way, but it might be helpful when you feel a different feeling. So hopefully that makes sense, and you can see how these different coping skills would be appropriate or inappropriate. But as you go through these 13 coping skills, we would like you to land on the doodle, draw, or journal one at the end, because that is kind of the it's the transition to our next activity. So we can talk about doodle, draw, and journaling, and why that would be a helpful coping skill. Art can be a positive coping skill because it gets the hard thoughts out of your head. Sometimes you might not be able to put those feelings to words. And sometimes your feelings can just stay stuck in your head. But art is an easy way to just get them out of your head so that you can free up some brain space and feel a little more at peace. Art gives you a chance to be creative. Obviously that's something that you can do if you enjoy being creative. It gives you a time out. Sometimes you just need a little time on your own. You can do art by yourself or art with others. And it can give you something to feel proud of. So by the end of your art activity, you can look back and you can see your drawing, and maybe you spend a lot of time on it, and it's something that can help you build up different talents so that you can then feel proud of yourself. And we talk a lot about art as being helpful to communicate your feelings. I mentioned if it's not appropriate to say them out loud, but sometimes people don't want to hear your feelings, or sometimes people don't understand your feelings, or they think that you should be experiencing a different feeling than you actually are. So art can be really helpful when the people around you are in a position to hear your feelings. So then the activity goes on, and it invites you and your child to do this art activity together. This poster comes in your kit, and you can use prompts to direct your child to express your feelings. So you could ask them, how do you feel today? What makes you happy? Or think of a different scenario. So how did you feel when school started? How did you feel when you went to your grandparents' house? Anything that you'd like to do. Sometimes, depending on how old the child is, you could just say, how do you feel right now? And you wouldn't need so much to prompt anymore. So that's up to you to be able to share some instructions on what you think might work best. On the opposite side of this poster that's provided, there's some information if you'd like to share your artwork with Cook Children's, but in this scenario, that's not necessary. If it is something that you're really proud of and your child wants to submit it for something, we do take the art and we share it on different flyers or put it on our website. And actually right now we have a display up at Dallas Love Field Airport from some of our artwork from previous years. So if you would like to submit your artwork, there's instructions on the back for that. And then some directions on or how to get the mental health resources on the Cook Children's website. Okay, and so after you complete the art activity, we invite you to discuss the activity with your child even more. So you might spend some time with them talking through how they feel with the book. You might spend some time talking through with prompts during the artwork. But here's just some suggestions to talk about the feelings with your child. So what did you draw and what feeling did you express? So just say, tell me about your drawing. And to help them kind of sort through if art is a good coping skill for them to use and or continue to use in the future, you could talk to them about how did you feel before you made this art and how do you feel now? And then ask, how can I help you with your emotions, depending on how old your child is and how able they are to express that to you. You can use this opportunity and this activity to connect with your child and open up the communication about feelings. And you can just ask them, how can I help you with your emotions? How can I help you express them? How can I help you identify them? And hopefully throughout this activity, you've had some good dialogue back and forth to kind of see what they might need from you. And we encourage you to continue to help your child recognize and express their feelings in healthy ways. So we hope that this activity will be a jumping off point for you to have improved communications, and also just create an environment where your child can express themselves and work on identifying those feelings. Again, it takes some practice to express these feelings in the right kind of way, in the appropriate way, but hopefully you'll be able to work together to make sure that your child's able to do that. We have a few additional activities that we'd like to share with you. So in addition to this formal children's feelings or work of art, there's a few suggestions that for you to notice and name your feelings. So maybe you just start noticing how you feel as things happen. So you can say that name of the feeling to yourself. You might feel proud when something goes well or disappointed when you don't do well on a test. You might feel relaxed when sitting with friends at lunch or nervous before a test. So if you can just encourage your child to just take a second and think about, like, how am I feeling right now? Again, going back to that activity that we all did together, just take a second and say, how do I feel right now? Another activity that you could do is to track one emotion. So you could pick one emotion and track it all day. So for example, you could track how often you're feeling glad. So notice how often you feel it. Maybe you're glad when something good happens, or glad when you see your friend, glad when someone helps you. And you can track that all day and see how often you were glad, and just make a mental note of that and think to yourself, is this feeling mild? Is it medium or strong? And you can kind of get to know the difference between all those different feelings. The third one, we suggest you learn to distinguish your feelings. So again, we talked about how can anger be different than frustrated? How is angry different than outraged? How is scared different than nervous? How is scared different than anxious? You'll see, obviously, with your children, you know them best, and you'll be able to see maybe the slight differences. And as they start to express how they feel, and put names to that, you can be able to introduce additional emotions, and that's just helpful to know, because sometimes those different emotions take different coping skills. So I know that when I'm frustrated, I do things, I have different coping skills than when I'm sad or when I'm angry. So even the smallest difference can help you find the appropriate coping skill. Then we also suggest maybe a feelings journal. So that's just take a few minutes every day, write down how you're feeling, write down how your feelings helped you get to know yourself a little better, how it helped you get to know others a little bit better, and that you can track and then better be able to communicate your feelings with others. And then lastly, we have a suggestion to create a calm down routine. So sometimes when feelings become too big, it can be helpful for your child to know what happens next. And as you learn to express feelings and use healthy coping skills, it can be helpful for your child to come up with a routine. So for example, you may use the coping skill of taking deep breaths together. So you might come together, take 5 deep breaths, and then try again. And as you begin to explore different coping skills, you'll know what works best for you. So we want to take a few more minutes and then just ask if you have any questions about the activity. If you have any mental health or emotions questions, we'd like to refer you back to our website. But if you have any questions right now about the activity and how we can support you in doing this, we invite you to do so in the chat. Okay, then let's just go ahead and I'll share some additional resources with you if you do have any more questions. You can use these QR codes that will lead you to the Cook Children's Center for Community Health, mental health resources here on the top. And then kidshealth.org is where Cook Children's has a lot of specific resources that are written by our doctors and therapists and people, professionals throughout the system, specifically for parents And also teens. There's a great teen section that helps kids with a lot of the common issues, health issues, and also mental health issues. So we'd like to refer you there. And if you have any questions for us, there are places for you to reach out to us through the Cook Children's Center for Community Health website here at the top. Okay, well, thank you so much. Do we have anything from our Plano Library folks?
Just a reminder that while supplies last, the kit for this program will be available at the Schimelpfenig and Haggard libraries. Starting in like a week or so, if we still have supply, then it will just be at the Haggard library.
Then also just want to share too that because we do this activity with different schools, if you do this with your child and you're interested in taking this to their school or interested in sharing their art, you can also reach out to us and we can bring this activity to schools and other organizations. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope that you have a great night.
Did get a
Thank
question. The second library besides Haggard that has the kit is Schimelpfenig. The Schimelpfenig Library in Plano. Any more questions? Okay. All right. Thank you guys so much for presenting this program for the library community.
Great. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.